morning. In the interests of transparency and honesty and representing the truth of the goddess in all her forms in daily life, I have a bit of a confession to make. It's not something that I've been doing that's really bad or anything. It's just that, usually I have sort of uplifting or helpful tips or something to share. But today I want to share something that's not so, I don't know. Anyway, I don't have a word. But last night something happened, and I didn't deal with it very well. As a bit of backstory, it was, as you may know if you watched my video yesterday, that I didn't get much sleep, and on top of that, I am in the final editing stages of my reference manual for my year-long spiritual development course, and worked probably, like 7 hours or so on that. No, more even, 8 or 9 hours, I think. And I haven't been up to that much work in a very long time. I'm still not really. So I was really exhausted. That's a short form of the story. I was exhausted. And then we were supposed to have a Power of 8, which I kind of blurred, Power of 8 meeting last night, and people just forgot. I guess it's because it's, into the new year, and maybe people's schedules haven't settled out again. But people forgot, and people didn't show up who said they were going to show up, and then my spouse was I felt like I was kind of, dragging into the meeting and stuff, and I just kind of lost my cool about it, and I just got frustrated and couldn't just shake it off and keep going. I mean, I did a few times actually, but at one point it was like kind of a final straw, and I couldn't shake it off. And I don't feel really that was an ideal moment for me. And but you know what? Emotions happen, and it's not a bad thing that I got frustrated and whatever. I mean, emotions happen, and they come, and if we are honest with them and clear with them and present with them and allow space for it, they just flare, and then they pass, and we move on. Something else, though, that I want to, I guess, share, because maybe other people don't know about it, is if you're empathic, it can be difficult to just shake it and move on unless you're alone. This sounds kind of weird, and it's probably not true for all empaths either, but particularly introverted empaths, which I think most of us are, if there's someone else there, like my spouse is very sensitive and somewhat empathic as well. And so if I have these feelings, let's call them negative feelings because they're not aligned with divine essence, divine quality. If I have these feelings come up, then they kind of like mirror out. They share, like emotions always we don't contain them, right? They're an energy field that surround us, and that if we're strong in the emotion, or we're strong senders, they go out with a lot of strength to other people. And I'm a strong sender. And I say that with that rueful face because I wish I weren't. I want to be a strong sender of all the positive things. Unfortunately, I'm also a strong sender of negative things, which I'm not as happy about. Because I don't want to be dumping that on other people. At any rate, so I'm sending these energies out, and my spouse is just picking them up and getting caught up in them as an empath does without, care. And then is sending them back to me. So we're in this, feedback loop of yucky energy. And I can't step out of that as long as I'm still in it, I guess. I need to get space and privacy and away from the other energies coming back at me to clean that up. And that's okay. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with needing space to get your stuff together. I think most of us do. And even if we don't, it's not like it's a bad thing. I just wish that I could not get lost in them. That I could just, for instance, last night, I wish I could have just shaken it off and been okay and moved forward, but that's not how it happened. And I noticed my tendency. I mean, I started out saying this is a confession, and it's kind of like, it's a confession because there's a tendency when doing this kind of thing, talking to people, and especially in a professional capacity, as I sort of am, I think I am, in a casual sort of way, there's a tendency to want to present in a positive way. We've got our ducks in a row, and we're, I don't know, perfected and polished, and we never get angry, and whatever fantasy story that may be. And I really don't want to do that. I really want to be honest. This is part of the practice that I'm doing with this series of videos, is transparency and representing, reality of a spiritual path, I guess. Because it's not all, sunshine and roses and rainbows and kittens, right? In fact, if it's all of that, you're not really doing the path. Because anybody can be spiritual and happy and uplifted and positive when everything's going right. It's what we do the rest of the time that makes it a spiritual practice, right? And so there's this tendency in myself that I notice of wanting to put forth a certain part of myself instead of all of myself, and a certain idea and fantasy rather than entire reality. And I am choosing not to do that, because that, I think, is a disservice to you and a disservice to myself, for that matter. Cutting off parts of myself is not in any way beneficial. We have to own what we might see as the shadow or the darkness, because that's also, in its own way, that's also light. And if we cut off any parts, we cut off all parts. And if we cut off ourselves, we shut out the divine. So So I don't want to do that, and I don't want to be, and I don't want to sort of inspire others or instigate others to do that either. I want to be honest, and I want to be clear, and I want to say, hey, this, junk is up and junk is going on, and it's still the goddess. It's still divine, and I'm still divine, and it's all okay. So I want to, there's a tendency to judge myself for these feelings, and my inability to process them as perfectly and as effortlessly and immediately as I wish. And also a little bit of nervousness around sharing that so openly with others that, hey, I'm not perfect. Far cry from it. And it's okay. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to be close to perfect. And as long as I can bring my compassion and my presence and my honesty to that imperfection, it's still lovely. It's still perfect. It's still divine. And even more than anything else, perhaps, it is the spiritual practice. It is the spiritual path. So I think I could say more about that, but I noticed the time is getting a little longer, and I wanted to do short videos, so I think I'll just end there for today. But thank you for watching, and I hope that, well, you know what, I'm having my own feelings about how you may react to this, and so I'm just going to go, and I'm going to love those feelings and create space around them and be present with myself. At any rate, thank you for sharing this with me today. Thank you for being present and allowing me to have this moment of transparency and honesty. And it means a lot to me that you're willing to hear me in all of my ups and downs, I guess. So I hope you have a beautiful, delightful day, even in the challenges. And I thank you and I love you for watching, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Blessed be. Hi again. Just wanted to do a brief follow-up to the last episode where we left our heroine. Because as I was watching it, I realized that at the beginning I was saying, the backstory of how I was really exhausted and everything, and it kind of sounded like I was trying to justify or excuse why I didn't, behave better or something. And I want to clarify that on some level, maybe that was something that was going on for me, because it was a kind of a vulnerable moment, and I wasn't conscious of that, but maybe I was in some way wanting to excuse it or something. But intentionally, consciously, what I wanted to share with that was that it is more, we all have times where it's more challenging to sustain a level of interaction and being that we want to. And being tired is unfortunately really common these days. Very few people get the sleep that their bodies and their minds and their souls require for optimum function. So I just wanted to actually point out that there are things that make it harder for us to live up to our ideals, or live closer to our ideals. And that was all that was. Now I'm going to go and check in with myself more and see about whether that was just actual anxiety around judgment or something. or a feeling that I need to justify why I'm not perfect or whatever that may have been. So I'm going to go feel into that and create space around it and be okay with it and move on with my day from there. So thanks again for watching. Blessed be.